Bonaire had a fairly significant spot-winged comb jelly event in the last part of September. Most were in the shallows, although we did see a few out in the blue over the reef. The first ones we saw were on the 20th, and to be honest, they're still around, even as I record this on October 3rd. Generally, they were just floating with the current, but occasionally we did see them actively moving around in the water column. It seems blue tang and sergeant majors enjoy the taste of spot-winged comb jellies, as both were taking small bites out of the slow-moving buffet. It appears the jellies can take some amount of abuse, but at some point, carcasses began landing on the sea floor. I wonder if the spots have more flavor, or they're just easier to pick out because the rest of the body is translucent, because we saw quite a few jellies with damage around the spots. Another question we have regarding these spots involves their shape and pattern. They seem to be different on each animal. These look like a spinning solar system, and all 4 spots on this one seem to have a streak running through them. Are they as unique as fingerprints or snowflakes? They were even more beautiful at night, as our lights highlighted some beautiful, delicate lines that reminded us of butterfly wings. Yeah, this is kind of a long opening, but you made it through. How about some first-time captures? We love investigating and learning about first-time captures, and this one was particularly interesting because the thrush cowrie is an invasive species. While they originated in the Red Sea, Indian Ocean, and waters around East Africa, Wikipedia describes them as being introduced into the Caribbean in the early 2020s. They are fairly well camouflaged, although the line down the middle seems a bit out of place. Sticking with mollusks, this gorgeous animal is a white spot dove snail. It was climbing what looks like a mountain, but was actually a 6-inch high rock covered with algae. This guy was only about half an inch long. Another small mollusk we saw, well, actually we saw a bunch of them, was this common sundial. On one night dive, they were all over. They're only about 1 inch in diameter, and they were at all sorts of angles in the sandy shallows. Several were rotating themselves into the sand. We're not sure if they were burying themselves or if it was in pursuit of food. On one occasion, a bloodworm came barreling in and either worked its way into the shell or just under the shell. Either way, it was cool to watch. Our last macro first-time capture includes these 2 red fanworms. The small red cone that remained when one of the fanworms withdrew into its hole caught my attention. I actually thought it was a red mermaid's wine glass, and not part of the fanworm at all. After some research, we found out that red thing is the fanworm's operculum, which extends beyond the fanworm itself and has a white collar that contains small red knobs. So that's an easy way to distinguish them. We saw 2 new sponges in September as well. The first seems to have a few common names, including pink-purple octopus sponge and smooth tube sponge. We've added the formal name and a couple of links in the description below if you'd like to learn more about it. We couldn't find any common names for the second one. Its official name is Dragmacidon Explicatum, and kudos to whomever named it, because it sounds an awful lot like a Harry Potter spell. We love looking into all the nooks and crannies on walls, because there's so much hiding in there. We found this lightbulb anemone sandwiched between some sheet coral and the rocky wall. It gets its name from the small bulbous growths on top. And there was one first-time fish last month. Behold the buffalo trunkfish. They are typically larger than the more common smooth and spotted trunkfish. We dove with our buddy Chris at the site last year when he saw one, but we missed it and have been looking out for it ever since. Persistence finally paid off. We will open the behavior section with an opening elegant anemone. Leslie called me over because she knew I would be excited. To open and close, they kind of roll or unfurl themselves, and this one was in the process of opening back up when I came by. This clip is actually over a minute long, but I had to get back to the group as we were at the end of the dive. So here is most of the action sped up. We've been showing bait balls for the last several months, and they remain a highlight when we see them. However, we have something new to show for September. Most, well, all of the bait balls that we've seen are comprised of scad, which is a key ingredient for a popular local Bonairean dish. Perhaps because this particular bait ball had been around for so long, the locals decided it might be nice to take a small portion and stock up. So they set up a net off to the side for some responsible, sustainable fishing. And while it might look like a lot of fish, this was the bait ball on September 3rd, and this is what the same bait ball looked like on September 22nd. If anything, it was even larger. For more information about local fishing laws and practices, check out the links in the description below. We'll stay on human behaviors for a little longer. By coincidence, or perhaps because the bait ball had been there for a while, we saw several snorkelers using personal propulsion devices to move around in the water a bit more quickly. Unfortunately, we were just coming out. Otherwise, I would have followed them for a bit. Stony coral tissue loss disease remains a concern on the island, and this is an example of Stenoppa's antibiotic treatment in an effort to stop its expansion. It seems pretty effective. Another threat to the reef is bleaching, which typically comes with warmer water temperatures. We not only feel the temperature changes, but some of the thermoclines have been visible as well. NOAA actually has a pretty cool website and publishes regional bleaching heat stress maps. We're showing the daily snapshots from September, and sadly, it looks like the ABC Islands can expect some bleaching soon. Speaking of poopy things, we saw this long-spined urchin crawling around a coral head and wondered what it would look like under a macro lens. Turns out, it was fascinating. And it was pooping. At regular speed, this is a 2-minute clip of a turtle we saw cruising across the shallows looking for the perfect place to take a nap. After swimming past a few isolated gorgonians, it circled around a larger group and came in for a landing. I imagine the mild back and forth of the water is a pretty good proxy for a rocking chair. We'll close the behavior section with this moray eel tarpon interaction. Insert Aussie Man review narrative here. As far as uncommon animals go, we were super lucky to catch this impressive pipefish in a crevice on the reef. We have seen them called both a harlequin and banded pipefish. Although there was only about 1.5 inches visible on this one, they can get up to 5 or 6 inches long. Equally colorful and equally hard to see was this golden coral shrimp. We see banded coral shrimp all the time, but the golden coloring makes these special. Also, check out those red things in front. It sort of looks like it's boxing. A shrimp we did get a good look at was this manyspot snapping shrimp. Usually, we only see their antennas sticking out from behind some corkscrew anemone. However, this one didn't seem to mind us hanging around as it foraged for some food outside its home. Speaking of homes, We also took some time to watch a sand tilefish clean up some small rocks and coral debris around its home in the shallows. That's gotta take a long time going piece by piece like that. For some reason, we saw or noticed more sea cucumbers this month. On one dive alone, there were 4 donkey dung sea cucumbers. Plus, we saw 2 variations of 3-roed sea cucumbers. This variety is sometimes referred to as a chocolate chip sea cucumber, for obvious reasons. This variation doesn't have a specific name, but still looks quite interesting. By now, you know we love the macro lens, so here's what it looks like up close. We have one more macro shot for you, and it is a post-larval surgeonfish we spotted on a night dive. I was extremely fortunate to synchronize my camera with the current and the fish to get this footage. Unfortunately, it's impossible to tell what kind of surgeonfish it will grow up to be. Much larger, but also just out in the open, was this 5-foot green moray eel. It was making its way between dive groups from the drop-off towards the shallows. They are just so elegant in the water, like a ribbon of satin flowing with purpose. As long as we're on eels, we see viper moray eels even less frequently. I found 2 on one of my night dives. One was all alone, and the other had taken up temporary shelter under a ledge with a couple of spotted morays. Finally, we saw a number of shameface heart crabs in the shallows down south. Whenever we see them, we try to hang around to see what they're doing. As this one went about its journey, another ran up to it and they hugged. It was over quickly. However, another ran up to it and they embraced as well. Kind of gives you a little hope, right? Well, we hope you enjoyed September as much as we did. If you already subscribed to the TropicLens channel, thank you so much. If not, please give it some consideration. If you're not ready for that level of commitment, perhaps you might click the like button. Or you can leave us a comment. So many choices. Whatever you decide to do is okay with us. Thanks for watching. Smiley face.